Creatio. And today, for the second time, I'm joined by Sam Biardo, founder and CEO of Technology Advisors. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you today? How's the weather in Chicago?
It's we went from spring to summer instantly.
Well,
It's
that's
90 degrees.
perfect. Perfect. Well,
Yep.
that's an instant change and always a good news, right?
Yep.
Great.
Went from the heat to the air conditioner.
Okay, well, Sam, last time that we were on our first product battle ever, we were comparing the lead to cash processes in Infor and Creatio sales, right? And we've agreed that today we're going to be looking at the service products for Infor and Creatio. Is that right?
Correct. We're going to be showing you all about customer service and support.
All right, that's perfect. Well, I remember that last time you were first, since you were the guest for very first time at the product battle. So I believe that today I will start the presentation. I'll start sharing my screen, and maybe, well, not maybe, but definitely we're going to see what Infor has to offer when it gets to the service products, if you don't mind. Yeah, perfect.
I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect. So let's just switch to my screen now. And the way that we're going to build it is, again, last time what we did, we took some specific areas of the functionality that we wanted to uncover, right? We looked at specific areas of the products. We kind of divided into functionality areas. And we are going to be doing about the same thing today when we're going to be talking about the service product, right? And of course, the very first thing that we need to start talking about and discussing is really the sources of the case aggregation, right? How exactly the users and the end customers really of our users can really report on a case and really register one in the application or with the company that they're using the app, right? So when it gets to Creatio, obviously we are offering multiple different sources for the cases to be created. One of them that I'm actually sharing right now is our portal. And a few things that I like to bring up around the portal itself is that, first of all, it's easily configurable. It can be easily extended to display additional information, display additional areas and sections of the application together with, the cases that were already submitted and the knowledge base articles. But also it kind of provides a limited access to the application and this very simple way of submitting cases, tracking their status, communicating together with the support agents and with the service agents, right? And this is one of those areas and one of those ways that we kind of bridge the gap between the end user and the customer that uses Creatio. So based on even just out of the box functionality here, what the end user might do, or the portal user, is basically specify the category of the case, the SLA or all of the SLAs that are applicable to this organization will be actually already defined, right? And then just need to specify the service itself. Now, based on the service selection, what the system will do would automatically pre-populate the response and the resolution deadline, right? Based on the service agreement that was established based on the service itself, based on the calendar, based on basically multiple business rules on what are standing behind the calculation of these timeframes and these deadlines. And basically from there, we can specify the configuration item or an asset that this service might be relating to, if there is any, and post any additional note that will become part of the history of the case and really become, the first communication point between the service agents, between the portal users, right? And you can actually see here that it is added to the processing tab. But this is just one of those sources of the cases. Obviously, we provide additional ones, starting with, a very basic, very simple landing page capturing. And of course, those can be added manually through integration or created automatically from an email. So the idea for us is really not to provide any kind of manual creation of the, of the cases from emails. We don't focus the work of the end users around, having to work with emails and then with cases. Every time that we receive a new email synchronized into Creatio from a list of specified mailboxes, if this is an email that is relating to a new case, we can automatically convert it into a case. If it is related to an existing case, we can automatically match that email based on the case number somewhere in the subject line or in the body of the email, and to inform the users of the system to reopen that case, and really to, minimize the lag between the email being actually received and the case being back to work. Okay. And of course, since the portal here is really just a limited area of access to the application, once a portal user creates a new case from the portal, it becomes immediately available in our application, and immediately work is begun on that case. So probably for me personally, right, as a person who before Creatio was working a lot with call centers with cases, it is very important to have the seamless kind of transition between case being submitted and taking into action. And of course, it's all about having all of those different sources of cases being brought into one specific area. So Sam, at this point, I'll probably hand it over to you, and let's see what Infor has to offer.
Okay, well, I'm not going to start with the portal, but they do have a portal. What I'm going to show you is that with Infor, I really don't have to do anything except never leave email, essentially. Okay. So I have a ticket right here. I have a San Bierdo, it says potential lead, but it's really an issue. And I'm just going to go over here, and I've got a set of activities. I can create new peoples and new contacts, but in this case, I want to create a new ticket. And here comes up the ticket information. So I can just say, we got a, sorry, my Bluetooth fell asleep. Keyboard, pushy salesperson. And I can decide if this is a problem, if it's a high problem, low, medium. These are all options at configuration. It's open now. They use a metaphor of three-tiered area category issue, and that comes into play later on. So it's complaint about sales, and God, this guy's so aggressive. And Alex won't shut up.
Well, I hope it's a different Alex.
Solution is mute him. And that's all I really need to do. And I just created a ticket into our system here. So most of the time as a support analyst, I can actually go in, and by using this, I can actually look at their record, or I can go back into the actual live system over here and pull up a ticket. If I go to the ticket view here, you can see that my ticket has been entered over here as a low issue. So this is the ticket information. And then these end up being queues. Mm-hmm. So you can have as many queues as you'd like. And then you can also look at them from a summary perspective. Here's an open ticket, and I can see what it's about. Here's the defect. Is it being returned, and so on. So that's literally how we would create a ticket, in our system. It can also monitor an email box. So if you send it to support@infor.com, it will look for a ticket number in the subject line. If it doesn't find it, it'll create a new ticket and auto assign it. So that's how we get tickets in the system.
Yeah, interesting. Well, you mentioned that when you just started talking about the work with the emails, you mentioned that like one of the things you actually have to do is never leave emails, right? So basically, if you're getting an incoming email in the inbox, you might actually have a group of agents that are, the first support line that are working mm-hmm. with a shared mailbox, and then they're looking at those emails. And then maybe this add-on for Outlook, it would be actually suggesting them to, create a new case or maybe associated with an existing case. Is that the case, Sam?
That is true, yes.
Okay, perfect. But again, for me, when it gets to the work of the agents, it's all about having an application that can actually aggregate most of those actions around the communication and really minimize the amount of tools and apps that they're using. Because in any service agent's, day, they would be using more than 3 anyway, right? For troubleshooting, for checking the issues, for checking the problems, and really anything that they might be doing. So adding another one for, for the mailbox monitoring might be a little bit, for me personally, right, from our
But
experience.
everyone starts their day out in Outlook. The
Yeah, of
first thing
course,
you do
but
in the morning is turn in Outlook or turn in your email, open your email.
well, as a
So
service agent, you might be actually starting not with Outlook, right? But you need to come in and you need to look into what is in your queue, what has been assigned to you, what you actually have reopened, not actually to go through, what has been received as the emails and make sure that those have been processed. But that's just me. That's just me. And definitely, when we kind of jumped a little bit ahead talking about the queues and
yeah, and
workload
it's your
of the agents.
right. I think it's your turn to show us queues and agents ticket management.
Yeah,
or case
absolutely.
management.
Well, before we actually jump into the agent desktop and the queues, what I do want to show is really kind of, continuing this conversation about the communications from the system. So let's flip back to my screen right now, and I'm just going to quickly do an overview of the case record, right? And what exactly I mean by the fact that we are providing a tool for communications for the agents, okay? Now, in this case, what we do here is we're looking at this case that we've just created from a landing page, from the portal, as in a user of the main system, right? Somebody who has access to all of the information around the case, and somebody who can actually see all of the details. Now, right here, obviously, on the left-hand side, we would have the profile of the case. This is probably going to be the most important data that we have captured so far. Again, we've got the configuration items, we've got the assignee groups and assignee as such. And definitely, if we jump into case info, we'll have all of the case terms that we as well are tracking and that we can use for KPIs, KPI measurements when it gets to overdue cases, though, that we have processed in time, those we've actually responded to or resolved in time. And of course, this is where we can as well look at additional info. But again, when we talk about a case, right, whenever a service agent starts working on that case, he definitely starts changing it to in progress, highlighting that this is something that he or she is now going to be processing. And obviously, from now on, unless the work that they need to do is related to Creatio as a unified CRM. Maybe this is an order status that needs to be checked. Maybe this is something that needs to be confirmed with the sales team. The work would be done outside, right? But what we do want to do, we want to provide this space where they can actually easily build communication with the customer that registered this case. And what I mean by that is we have a very usual use case, right? Once you look at this case and you actually want to check something, you want to, call the customer, maybe you want to agree on some, additional info that needs to be collected. Right here, you can actually use a CDI panel and call to action to dial out directly from the system. From there, you've got the actions dashboard, and you know that this is our area for taking actions on your records that you're working on. So if you're saying that we are trying to call Alex Wilson and there was no answer, you can easily record that in the system. Assume you want to then send him an email. You could actually do that easily within the same area. And you can as well just pick up a specific template that has been pre-configured in your application, right? And you can easily populate this into the email directly with some merged fields, right? And from there, if you want to leave an internal note just for the users of the system, you can easily do that. And you can as well just tag some users so that they also get informed and they can now follow this case. Maybe this is a supervisor that you need to inform that you have actually tried to reach out to the customer. Simply schedule a follow-up, again, without leaving the case. And this is something that can be then actually added to your Outlook. This can be added into your calendar, and be available on any of your devices. And as well, just send a portal message for Alex. And the idea here is that I'm doing all of these actions, right, without actually leaving the application, without actually leaving the record. And this is what I mean by, a unified workspace for communication, because I don't need to switch to my contact book and actually pick up a phone that is sitting on my desk and dial out. I don't need to switch to my Outlook to send out an email and then to make sure that it syncs back to Creatio and that is actually tracked upon the case, right? I don't need to pick up a instant messaging app that I'm using internally, right, and somehow leave a note or have to add a timestamp note to actually, specify what were the results of my actions. And definitely, I don't need to rely on just an email and phone communication to try to reach out to my customer, right? And as you can see right here, everything that I did that is part of the communication is available as part of our processing tab, as part of our timeline for this case. But these are just some of the actions and some of the items that I did manually myself, while the system will actually track in the background every other action that I completed as an assignee towards this case, right? And something that was related to this case. So from the point where we are changing the assignees, we're changing the statuses, we have automated emails going out without any user involvement, right? We have activities created with some specific results. And of course, we have additional, points of measurement and tracking added automatically for us. And this is what I mean by communication, but also tracking of that communication, right? Because sometimes, unfortunately, it gets to the point where you need to have a clear understanding of how each individual case was progressing, how it was initiated, what were the actions of the users around those cases. Okay. So Sam, this was my kind of a understanding my view over how the cases are probably not best, but should be measured and should be managed when it gets to one specific case that we're looking at. And if you have anything to add, anything to comment, let's hear what you think.
Sure. So this is my ticket view.
Yep. And let's just make sure that we switch to your screen. So I'm just going to ask our support team here to move to your screen. Yep, and please carry on.
Okay, so this is my ticket. Oops, my ticket view. You'll see that in this view here, I have the ability to go through and edit a ticket. I can also just come up here and drop them a quick email. I can send it to the contact. I can send it to the person who's assigned to. I send it to my manager, and I have different types of information. We have public and private information. So when we create a ticket activity, you'll see that we have different types of comments here, but we can also go through and in our journal define every single step that's been going on inside the ticket. So I can also filter this. Right now I'm showing everything, but I can filter it just on one agent or stuff created by a single person. But anyway, inside my comments arena here, I have internal comments as well. So in their vernacular, these are things that are internal to my system and never see the public. And then journals are things that are just happening in general. And then ticket activity in their mind is comments that are external. So when I actually hit this button up here to send the email, it only shows the external comments. So, I can come in here and badmouth you, Alex, if I wanted to.
Well, of course. Of course.
You're doing a great job today. Not. And by the way, I can time that as well, how long that took. I can timestamp it and save that. And that comment only is seen internally in my organization, never gets out to the customer, it's not available through the portal or not. It saves that embarrassing time, you know, when you create a bad comment about somebody and they freak out when they read it in the portal, which we've all experienced. So anyway, this is how we would communicate up here through this email. I can also just click on, if they had an email address, this would pre-populate it. And I also have pre-populated forms, so I can send them a form email as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I would communicate with the customer.
Well, definitely want to address a few things here, Sam, if you don't mind. Well, first of all, obviously, you know, we do have that differentiation between internal comments or in-system comments and portal comments, right? So if you want to, you can continue bad-mouthing people in Creatio as well, but that's not really that important. But what I've noticed is that, first of all, you've got different areas around, you know, the UI where you can take different actions. So somewhere on top of the top right corner of the ticket area, you've got the way to send out an email. And then if you want to leave an internal comment, you would go to the tabs below, and then you have the journal, and then you would have, you know, ticket activities, for example. But do you have the same kind of like a single page view, like a timeline over the actions that were completed around, you know, all of those areas that might be important? And
I have a timeline view, right?
Okay.
Okay. I can also, if I want to go to a single page, I can just drag it up here and add that information in. So if I work all day in ticket activity, and I work all day in, say, journal, then I can use the journal, the ticket activity, and the audit trail, for example, and put them up on my screen, so I don't have to go anywhere. If I don't really use the audit trail or the journal, I can just take it off and return it back to the tab view over here. So it really allows me to configure the screen as an end user the way I want it to be. Again, their metaphor is these are common actions. They're set up as part of configuration. These are the standard ones out of the box. And then this is essentially the queue that I'm in. So I can run through and look at them. So for example, I can create, and I create queues by just hitting this group button, and there's a group builder essentially.
Yeah, well, let's get into queues in just
we'll
a couple
get into that later.
Yeah,
okay.
we're just gonna because I have so many things I want to mention here, right? Well, I remember that when we were going through the leads and opportunities, right, and orders creation last time that we were on a product battle, I kind of raised a couple of times that the user interface with Infor, for me personally, is not exactly transparent, right? Because again, there are ultimately 5-6 different areas that I could be using for different actions for different tasks, right? And it takes time to adopt the system, I bet, right? It takes a couple weeks, it takes a couple of months to actually have a better understanding of everything that the application might be doing, right? And especially when you're talking about common tasks, right? On the bottom right, you've got the new to-do, new phone call, new meeting, and this is something that we have, you know, in our actions dashboard. But is this also like fully related to the service agents and the work they might be doing? Because I remember we had the same area when we talked about leads and opportunities. Is that really like across all of the different tools, or is it only or is it coming from that sales app and from that sales experience?
Again, so the way they work it is sales and service are all included in one UI. So you only have one price you pay for sales, marketing, and service.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just looking at the service view. And by the way, this is the customer service view. I also have a support view if I'm a support agent. So you get different components based on what your role is in the organization. Right now, we're just looking at the ticket, which is common between the sales and support, but I mean, between support and services. But even then, the salespeople, if they went to any account, they could see all the open tickets and take notes if they wanted to.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Well, at this point, let's probably switch to mine, and we're going to continue to the next area that we had to discuss, right? I'm also going to ask our broadcast managers to drop me a note on how are we doing with the scores right now, because as all of our participants remember, right, they can vote for either Creatio or Infor in their broadcast page, and they can also ask questions. And we are going to be looking at some of the questions at a later point. So far we are 65-35. For 65 being for Creatio. Sorry, Sam, but you have to do a better job if you want to convince our participants that Infor is just better for this.
Okay.
And we do have some time for this, around 15 minutes. So let's continue with the product comparison, right? Now, one of the things that I do want to focus around, and you kind of started going in that area, so I'm probably going to pick it up from there straight away, is really how you can do the navigation, how you can do an overlook and oversee every single case that you are actually taking care of, and what are you working on right now, which is the queue or the groups, depending on how you call them, right? So first of all, even though you do have that area on your right hand side that we're going to see when we're going to switch back to you, obviously in Creatio we might have this expandable and this area for all of the tickets that are available for me to see, right? And this is just one of the ways that we actually build this. Now, of course, when it gets to working with all of these specific cases or tickets, no matter how you call them, we do offer this whole section, this whole area where our service agents or support agents can easily understand where they are right now, right? Whether they want to show the closed cases or filter those out and have only open ones displayed. If you want to narrow it down to only your cases, or maybe this is a supervisor that is going to be viewing them for a couple owners at the same time, or maybe if you want to as well work by just tagging, or even just switching to the folders and having a dynamic folder structure that is always updated, displayed for you, right? Everything is just in the basics. Everything is really around very native, intuitive navigation for us. And obviously, we can include additional features here, easily installing a couple of apps from the marketplace, right? But for me personally, again, since I have been a support agent for quite some time in my past, I know that very often agents really don't want to spend this time on navigation, right? They don't want to go through all of the cases they have to in queue. What they really want to do, they want to understand what is the next case that they need to work on, what is top priority. They want it to be shown that case, right? And they really want to be taken through the steps to resolve it, right? Or at least understand how they should be working on it. And this is where we talk about Agent Desktop that we in Creatio offer as part of our out-of-the-box functionality. The idea here is that this is an ideal workspace or ideal section for any role that is working on a large number of items that they need to process on a daily basis, and that is their queue or their work list or items they need to take care of, no matter how you call it, right? It really is just a 3-area section where on the right-hand side, you've got the metrics and KPIs that you can easily configure with our dashboarding functionality. We can include the individual KPIs for a user or maybe for his or her team, right? Anything that might bring a little bit more of a competitive approach and gamification to the work of those agents. Now, there's definitely the Enterprise Social Network for recent updates for those agents, for those support service teams. And then on the main area, you've got really the queue and the work list that this individual agent needs to take care of. And the way that it works is that we've got another area for queue management, more of an administrative side, where we really work on building these queues. But for for the end user, for the agent that works on these, they see some of the highlights of the cases that have been actually displayed and can be easily set up with columns, right? They know that on top of this open queue, because we also provide a blind queue, this is the top priority case that needs to be resolved. And then they just basically click open, where the system is bringing them to the case record itself, right? And the process is actually going to be driving them, is going to be bringing them through the steps that are required to resolve this case. And really, this is how easy it is to organize a queue or a work list for agents of any complexity. Because, as I mentioned, the way that we actually manage the whole queue creation, right, and the distribution of these cases is really through the queue settings, where first of all, the queues can be organized around any specific, any objects, whether out of the box or custom for Creatio, right? And we are looking at the settings of the queue. Definitely the business process. This is something that is going to open one record, or it might have a sequence of steps that is going to be driving the users from one step to another, asking them to complete a couple of actions. Based on the result of the actions, show them the basically the results and maybe the resolution of this case. And this is how we're going to be filling in this queue, right? It can be a dynamic population that will basically include all the records that match these filtering conditions. And then, of course, you might have the team, you might have a couple of agents that are going to be included into this queue, right? So think about it as you might have multiple queues to have set up to process any kind of record or records. And then you can have multiple agents that are going to be assigned to these queues, and you can have multiple queues assigned to an agent. So in the end, your user always has the top priority record to take care of on top of the list, right? And and you're rest assured that these are always up to date. So this is for me, like, what is important when it gets to work distribution, queue management, agent desktop, a simple access to what you have to do. So let's probably switch to you at this moment, unless you want to comment something on Creatio side. Let's switch to you.
No, we're good. I think your queuing system is excellent. It's very complex. Ours is very simple. We create queues up at the top using this group builder, which basically is a visual designer. Every field is exposed to create a group. So I can literally make any groups I want. I can make groups that came in from the web portal, groups that have been submitted for speed search, groups that have internal access. But the way I assign them out is this little feature right here. And so it can be assigned to everybody. It can be assigned to a team. It can be assigned to a specific user. And if it's assigned to a team, essentially you build a group based on that team, and then everyone has that access to it. Now, the moment they start working on it, we're going to get into this, but they can start punching in and punching out of that ticket, and it'll auto assign it back to me while I'm working on it and take it off of that queue. So, and then when I'm all done, it'll return it back to the queue it was in. So it's pretty simple the way they've architectured it.
So basically, the groups are just folders that you have to create, and you have to have
akin to your folders, yes.
Okay, but and something that you mentioned about,
but I can have a folder though that's based on a team or a data source, because it's based on any field. So because of that, I can have portal folders. I can have a email folder. I can have high priority email folders, and so on. And so essentially, by using the groups, which is the folder mechanism, and the fact that every field is completely exposed, I can create as many of these groups as I want, and groups can get you can be auto assigned values, which then plops you into the grouping feature.
Yeah, well, I understand where you're going with this, right? But this is something that is taken for granted when it gets to Creatio, right? Because this was our approach always, so that whenever there is a column, it has to be exposed to the queuing agent. It has to be exposed to the reporting engine. It has to be exposed to the search and segmentation of folder engine. So this is not really that surprising for me, I would say, right?
it's right. It works the same way as what I would say. I can accomplish the exact same thing as you can with your queues using my groups.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, because I'm pretty sure if you're talking about the groups, you don't have custom sorting for each of the groups, right? So that, okay. Okay, that's new. That's new. But again, well, if you're
I have static groups as
Mhm.
well, so I can have groups that I just say you're part of this group, and it's not based on any query whatsoever.
Okay, so and if I wanted to see across all of the tickets that are across all of those groups in one single area,
You
could
can
I
do
see
that.
them
Yep, yep.
with base settings, base
Using the
configuration?
group view. Yeah.
Okay, I see where you're going with this one. All right. Well, again, I think this is where we're really going to be relying on our audience to decide, right? What how they feel the applications, what they think is, a better way of managing cases or managing service requests. So this is really not going to be mine or your. We don't have to decide, right? We can all
Right.
leave with our own opinion. And this is the best, right? Because we're really not responsible for the group's opinion. We're only responsible to showing our products in the best light. But what I did want to do as well, because I'm being sent a couple of interesting questions from the chat area of our viewers, right? And what is interesting here is really how do you, here's one. What are the latest issues surrounding service management, Sam, in your opinion? When it
Sorry,
gets
what?
to issues surrounding service management, like in general, like what do you see from your experience? What are the issues that your customers find and that your customers are dealing with?
Ah, well, certainly they would like to have some type of automated resolution being assigned to a ticket. So as you organize your tickets, they would like to have the ability to have the system serve up what the potential problems are, and obviously what the potential resolutions are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, this is basically just automating the knowledge base, right? And how you can actually easily search for the knowledge base articles based on those cases. And this is actually reminding me about another area that we probably would like to uncover and would like to talk about a little bit, if you don't mind. Just do like a little last product show off
Sure.
here, right? So let's switch to my screen and really go to another area of creation that is quite important here, right? Because what we've done so far, we've looked at only how the agents see this, right? How they are working with the records, how they are processing the cases, how the work can be organized for them. But another area that is also quite important is how do you actually build this backbone, right? How do you support everything that the agents are then working with? And what I mean by that is really the service workplace in Creatio, right? And how do we actually organize and how do we build the foundation for the work of the agents? So first of all, as you probably know, right, we have quite a lot of functionality around service agreement management,
Mhm.
right, where we can organize service agreements into groups of services, really, right, and define all of the service recipients, whether this is going to be a single contact or a single account or even a department within a specific account, depending on the type of service that you're delivering, right? And when we talk about these services, this is where we mean by having something that will actually uh, define the response and the resolution deadlines, right? This is what we say that can actually easily include what is your response time unit, what is your resolution time unit, and we can work and operate in calendar and working days, hours, and minutes, right? And you basically connect these not just to a service agreement as such, right? But you can have these connected to your configuration items. You can build a catalog of related services that might be connected to each other, right? And obviously, since we've kind of mentioned the configuration items and the asset management within Creatio. And sorry for that, Sam. Last time I think you got a phone call. This time somebody rang my door. But basically, under the under our application, we can cover some of the configuration item or asset management processes, where we really bring those together into components that might be assigned to our end customers. If we're talking about manufacturing, if we're talking about actually, producing a product, and we can easily as well display different dependencies across components of these configuration items and assets, right? And have a simple view over what can be as well going out together with one of our primary assets, right? And I'm not even going to go into the full area of, problem change and release management that we have in Creatio, because this is probably going to take another webinar, right? But just wanted to say that we can go far beyond just case management, right? We can have very detailed, very complex, ways of organizing the services and service agreements, and then this will actually help the end users, the agents, to process these cases a lot faster. So, Sam, I know that I've kind of covered quite a few areas here. I know that, maybe that was a little bit too much, but let's see if you've got something like that, right? So what we did was we looked at services, service agreements, and assets.
Sure. We have all that. So here's how it goes. Can we switch over to my screen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we have contract management built in the system that actually supports a number of days with a grace period or a quantity. So when a ticket's opened up, it'll actually count the number of tickets, and it'll say you're out of count or your contract has expired. If you have like an all-you-can-eat with a time limit on it. Or you can actually you can count the number of hours and track by hours or by dollars. Because it's integrated with their ERPs, it has returns. So I can look at a part and say, oh, this part's being returned. If it connects into their ERPs automatically, they have that built for their family of products. I can look at how we're going to ship that part. Is that part in fact defective? And if so, what kind of defect is it? I can throw some comments on it, but basically any ticket, you'll see a return tab on it. We have a standard set of problems that are out there, so we can have a particular problem code. I love these because this data is so old. They're talking about POM trios. And I love showing that because I think I'm the only one who remembers the POM trio. But it can actually find a description of the actual problem. And then there's a standard resolution with every standard problem. So when you classify a problem in a ticket, it can give you a set of standard problems. And then once you've chosen that particular standard problem, you can actually show the standard resolution. And this standard resolution can be easily emailed out to a customer. You can also look at things like ticket activity rates, what type of, how am I going to charge for that service? That's how it calculates the dollars. And all of that is, in fact, associated with the actual ticket. Also, every customer in the system, well, just pick one here, like Abbott, you can see that they have related assets with it. So the account actually, as I sell things, the products move over and get associated with the accounts. The support agreements are also associated with the products. So you can actually tie the support contracts. When I open a ticket, I know I'm working on an authorized product right away. And I can also see if this is actually related to a defect, and if I have to make a return, and how many actual things did I have to do on that specific ticket. So the products sync with the products in the ERP. So if you're not tracking them here, you're tracking them in the ERP, and they all sync over. I can also add a product at the last minute. I'm trying to find my demo ticket here. So if I wanted to, I could just go down in here and say, here's a related asset, and say, oh, we didn't know you own one of these, so we're just going to add it right now. and make that part of the product. Sorry, my snoozing just popped up there. So, by the way, products can also have defects associated with them. And when you close out a defect, you can close out all the tickets. When you fix a defect, you can close out all the tickets, just like you guys do.
Yeah, so it's just basically problem
The same.
management. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for that, Sam. I think that at this point, I'm probably going to ask the broadcast managers to stop the screen sharing, right? Because last time what we did, we also talked a little bit about the pricing, right? And I wanted to mention here that as far as I understand, right, the Infor comes in all one piece, right? But I did want to remind about the pricing structure, what and if you can actually take just the service piece from Infor, or you have to go with the marketing.
You get the whole thing for one price.
Okay, and which is
$70.
okay. Perfect. Well, in our case, obviously, as you know, right, Creatio starts at $35 per user per month for the service application, right? And that includes the portal as well. That includes the agent desktop. That includes pretty much almost everything that we've seen today during this demo, right? But what I did want to do as well is maybe, raise a few questions from the chat area, and one specific that we can really dig deep into, and we can really discuss. And Sam, in your opinion, what are the key things that should be considered when choosing the service management platform? Right.
Well, I think auto queue assignment is real big, and like I said, automated resolution thing is really big. So having an AI that helps you figure out as a service agent, based on what you've just typed in, this is the most probable issue, I think is really important. And then escalation and notification, exceptionally important in the product. Certainly you guys have it. Infor also has it, but escalation is an admin function that has to get configured as part of your setup, which I think is pretty much true with Creatio as well. Yeah. The having landing pages, which and building out landing pages for support, which Creatio has, but Infor does not have. Monitoring emails, inboxes, and auto creating tickets, I think is exceptionally important, which Infor has. So, and then obviously, if you have an integratable back end, you need to integrate your support information into your quality control information on your back end. And so we think that's really important. Infor does that for Infor products only. And as you know, we try to do it for everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in my perspective, because I did want to share a little bit of my feedback and my experience on this side, it's all about having the flexibility, right? And it's all about having the chance to quickly rebuild your processes, quickly rebuild your workflows that are as well supporting the service agents and the case management, the case resolution. Because even though we do understand that some of that work is going to be done manually, even though we do understand that some of that is going to be taking outside of the system that is actually bringing together these actions, right? You can still be in a place where your new service agents have absolutely no idea what they need to do, right? And they need to get on board really fast, and you need to have a system that can support that through configuration of workflows, dynamic case management processes, just the business process management engines, right? And really have that ability to adjust your service application towards the needs of your agents, your sales team, your marketing team, whoever you might be connected to when working under one roof, right? So that's my personal opinion. Sam, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for participating in the second product battle. We love to have you as our guest.
I told you I was going to be tougher this time.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I'm actually still quite happy to say that 65% of our viewers would choose Creatio or Infor when it gets to selection of their service application. And we still, you know, we're still happy to have you here anytime that you'd like to go through these product battles. Thank you for your time today, Simon.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
and thank you all to all of our participants. And thank you to all of our viewers for your votes, for your comments, and your questions. We are very excited to have you too, and stay tuned to our updates on our next product battles when we're going to be looking at some of other vendors on the market. Thank you all, and have a great day.